Hello, everyone. Okay, so I had some technical difficulties apparently, and I thought I had started, but I didn't. Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Sargent. So we get to go live again, and I am going to talk about taming the immune system this evening. So apparently we had a failed broadcast tonight, so we're going to unfail, and we're going to have a successful broadcast. So what I had started talking about was, when I was talking to myself in my living room here at home, what I was talking about was how our body parts, how we're all put together as one. And I have given this graphic before, but I wanted to start out this evening by talking about how we ended up with an autoimmune disorder in the first place. And I also wanted to talk about how all autoimmune disorders are the same, and they all come from basically the same place, is a sick immune system. So whether you call it rheumatoid arthritis or systemic lupus or rosacea or Hashimoto's disease or any number of autoimmune disorders, they all come from the same place. So this is good news, because that means if we tame the immune system, we can manage and overcome any autoimmune disorder. So that means that the treatment for Hashimoto's, for lupus, for rheumatoid, for any number of those autoimmune disorders, the treatment is basically the same. And we're going to be talking a lot about how you got into this mess in the first place, which is what we're going to start with. Then we're going to talk about leaky gut for a minute, because that's really where all this autoimmune disorder stuff starts. And we're going to talk about how to get out of that loop. And I'm going to let you know that I am human, and I was sick yesterday, so I'm going to try to get through this. I've got my LaCroix water right here. I'm going to try to get through this without hacking and coughing too much this evening. So I had started by saying that this is our body, and not as beautiful as my 14-year-old could make it. This is our body. We have a GI system, we have a set of bones, we have an immune system, we have brain, we have a heart, we have genitourinary, lungs, musculoskeletal system. This is our entire body, right? And it all works together. Before we are even born, we are exposed to over 300 toxins. Fetal blood has 300 toxins in it. So just know that depending on how your genetics work or don't work, may make this toxic load a problem or a burden right from the beginning. Whether we are breastfed or not also makes a difference. It changes the flora that starts in your gut right from the get-go. Not something we necessarily have a choice over. The type of food that we eat will either add nutrition to our body or actually take away nutrition from our body. When we eat a lot of processed foods, junk foods, foods that come out of a box or a bag, we are setting ourselves up for nutrient deficiencies. Those foods do not have the nutrients we need, particularly those of us who might be sensitive or who already are not feeling our best. The food that we eat can really make us sick. And that's something that we're going to talk a lot about in terms of healing, because that's how we're going to heal, is by putting into our body what we need to make really healthy cells and a healthy immune system. So what else happens to our body? What we eat, right? We talked about eat. What about what we drink? Are we drinking enough water? Half of your weight in ounces every day. Or are you drinking a lot of alcohol to fall asleep, and then drinking coffee or caffeine to wake up and stay awake all day? I know, it's tempting, but it's also a load on our system that causes problems particularly within our adrenals and our thyroid and our hormones. Ladies out there who are going through menopause, if you are hot flashing, 3 top hot flash makers: alcohol, sugar, and caffeine. So there's another tip for the day. Let's see, eat, drink, How are we moving our body? You know, sitting is the new smoking. So are you getting some kind of movement in your system? Even on days when you feel your absolute worst, you need to be able to move your body. Even, like I said, even if it's just stretching or 20 minutes of yoga and meditation, that will help move the fluids through your system and allow your body to move nutrients and oxygen into tissues where it might not get. Move your body every day, a little bit. Hey, babe. Yeah, just love live video. Say hi.
Hi.
So what else goes into our body? Eat, drink, move. How are you sleeping? How is your sleep? If you're not getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep, you're going to cause damage in your system at some point, and that's going to come back to haunt you. And we've all been there, right? Through college maybe, or high school, we kind of did a lot of things and we didn't always get the best sleep. Well, or maybe you had a baby and you don't sleep well before, you don't sleep well right after. These things can cause issues in our systems. What about antibiotics? That's a big one, right? Antibiotics cause a big, huge gaffe in our gastrointestinal system and our immune system. First of all, if we take a lot of antibiotics, or if we're given a lot of antibiotics as kids, our immune systems aren't allowed to develop the way they need to. So if every virus your mom had you running to get antibiotics for every little sniffle, that starts to interfere with your body's ability to fight and ward off infections. So it causes some dysfunction in that immune system from the start. Taking antibiotics is sometimes necessary. I was thinking about it yesterday, actually feeling so crappy. Better today. I've been on some herbals. So some big doses of herbal. So antibiotics, right? Big toxin that can really mess up our systems. Water, eat, drink, move, sleep, think, antibiotics. How about viruses, bacteria, and funguses, like Candida, a yeast. Viruses, bacteria, and funguses are thought to be one of the leading causes of autoimmune disorders. And according to Isabella Wentz's book, that's one of the bigger things that starts to cause disruption in our immune system, particularly if it becomes something that's very chronic. So bacteria, virus, and fungus can really start eating away at our system if we don't take care of those and take care of our immune system to take care of those. So these are all of our stressors that really can start our body down a negative or positive path, depending on which way you've chosen to go with some of those things, and whatever's happened in your life to be positive or negative on that. So I just wanted you to understand, where does disease come from? This is where it comes from, and this is where disease starts. When all of these things play off of our genetics, so let me erase all of this and put in here genetics. This is how disease happens or doesn't happen. It's not, we aren't pre-wired by our genes to have an autoimmune disorder. It may look like it in your family if your family has thyroid and your sister or your aunt and everybody has this particular disorder. It may look like it's genetic. But remember that your social habitation is also very similar within your family and family of origin. You eat very similar to your family. You drink, eat, move, sleep. You have very similar health value system and value systems around each one of these things that can make it look like it's genetic, but it's just the fact that we've all eaten and we all eat and drink much like our parents. If we really think about it, we have recipes passed down. It's tradition. I certainly have a lot of that. And when I was growing up, I remember that my mom made tons of Christmas cookies, and I grew up in a family where we ate healthy. My mom ate everything from scratch, and I was jealous of the kids who got Oreos. So, even though it was all from scratch, she would make dozens of Christmas cookies, and it was fun. But as I'm raising my children, we may make a couple dozen cookies, and we may, make all the pretty frostings and, decorate them and everything. But what I found was they're not that interested in eating them because they haven't grown up around a lot of that kind of stuff. So I'm changing the pattern slowly so that I don't pass down negative habits. We still have fun, we still make cookies, but we just don't really consume them generally. I found a couple years ago we made cookies, and I found them in March in the refrigerator in the garage. Yeah, because we hadn't really eaten them. So understand that genetics only plays up to about a 30% role in our health. And it's what we do to our genes: eat, drink, move, sleep, think, toxins, antibiotics, and other medications, along with chronic viral, bacterial, or yeast infections. That's what causes the disease to manifest depending on your genetics. That's where autoimmune diseases start. So let's get rid of this and walk through the system as it goes into leaky gut. Because that's one of everybody's favorite topics, is leaky gut. And I have some spray stuff to make this easier. There we go. I'm learning, So let's talk about leaky gut real quick, because I think it's important for you to understand how your immune system starts to dysfunction in the first place so that you end up with this crazy autoimmune disorder. And we made a leaky gut the last time we were here, so I'm going to make another one. Here's your intestine. I'm just going to make like a tube, right? Now understand that in this tube, each one of these is like, look, these are little cells along here. Like little teeth, right? Little cells, little cells. And in between each one of those cells is something called a tight junction. And that tight junction is like a little bridge between each cells that holds the cells together so that the only appropriate things can get through there. And when we take a lot of medications, so I'll just make those big black X's, right? When we take a lot of medications or antibiotics, what we end up doing is some of that toxicity starts to erode the tight junctions between the cells. We also have happy bacteria. I'm going to color them green and pink tonight because that just seems like fun, and it's spring, right? So April showers around here are going to bring lots of May flowers. I think we're going to have April flowers around here. There's so much rain. All right, so there's lots of happy bugs, but if we put down too many antibiotics, right, all the happy bugs get killed off, or not all of them, but they become imbalanced with the cranky bugs, which I will make orange. And the cranky bugs also make toxins, which start to break down these tight junctions between the cells. Then, when we eat food, which is going to be blue, we'll call them blueberries. When we eat food and it passes through here, different foods and particles, viruses, funguses, and bacteria, viruses, fungus, and bacteria start to leak out in between where the toxins have eroded away your gut lining. Outside here is your immune system. Now, this is really a great idea Because any bacteria, virus, or fungus that comes in contact with your immune system, we want to kill those off. That's normal. But when too many come in, or chronic ones stay there, we start to turn our immune system against ourselves. These viruses, bacteria, and funguses create antibodies that look like us. So if you have a virus, a fungus, and a bacteria, and our immune system starts making triangular shaped antibodies, right? That triangle will fit into that virus and blow that virus up. That's what our antibodies are for. They're for tagging viruses, bacteria, things that don't belong, and turning our immune system on so that other cells can come in and blow up the things that don't belong there. Now that's a great idea when we're getting rid of things that we don't want. So if that triangle fits right in there, this triangle fits right into that bacteria, now those things can be destroyed. So that's a great idea, except when the virus, fungus, and bacteria also end up looking like, or the antibodies also fit into proteins that are on our own cells. So, as in Hashimoto's disease, what ends up happening is we have a thyroid cell. Let's say that our thyroid cell looks like this, right? It just has this smooth edge, and then it has this protein that looks kind of like an upside down V. And that's our thyroid cell. Our body sees our thyroid cell now as if it were a virus, a bacteria, a fungus, or a gluten molecule. Because gluten also has one of these proteins in its outer membrane, or in its protein structure, that will hold one of these crazy triangular shaped antibodies. Now I'm just using this to make it easy, right? But if all of a sudden we eat a bunch of gluten and that gluten gets filled up with antibodies and we cause our body to make more antibodies, what else is going to start being attacked? Our thyroid. So this is why gluten is such a bad idea for Hashimoto's patients. What's interesting is that a lot of our autoimmune disorders end up like this. The proteins in the cells are similar to a virus, a bacteria, a food, or something else that our body is making antibodies to. And it doesn't have to be the perfect fit, it just has to sort of fit and get stuck there for the rest of our immune system to get turned on and start destroying the cells. So this is why it's so important to tame our immune system. We can take appropriate medication for our thyroid to get our metabolism straightened out, but unless you're really attacking the root cause of thyroid destruction, you're not going to be able to really heal, and you're more often than not, you're going to start having other autoimmune disorders. The multi-autoimmune patient is very common now. So hopefully this makes sense, because we're going to move on to what happens to our thyroid. I'm going to do a little bit other thing when we eat a lot of gluten. So we have our thyroid cells, right? I'm just making some representation of what I think it should look like. And if gluten, let's make gluten a new color to make it easy for you. Let's make gluten blue. Let's say gluten looks like this, right? But it still has a little bit of that triangular shape. And our immune system has already reacted to it and has already created antibodies to gluten. So we have these crazy little triangles, right? And now we get this cross-reactivity or molecular mimicry between the molecules of the antibody and the molecules of the gluten and your thyroid cell. So every time you eat gluten, we create more antibodies and then have more cell destruction. So here we go. We just ate a pizza, right? This seems to be the downfall for a lot of people. And now we feel horrible, and our joints ache, and we feel crappy, and we've made all these antibodies, we've turned on our immune system, and now our immune system is turning on us, and we decide, okay, that's it. I am going gluten-free. So 3 weeks from now, when you go gluten-free, about half of your antibodies are gone. Awesome, right? In another 3 weeks, another half of your antibodies are gone. And in another 3 weeks, the other half of what's left are gone. Are you understanding? This is why going on gluten-free diet for a month isn't really enough time to really understand whether gluten-free is going to be helpful or not, and why some people don't always react positively to a gluten-free diet right away. It sometimes takes 12 weeks. It sometimes takes a full 90 or 120 days, 3 to 6 months, to really get all of those antibodies cleared out of your system and turn down the immune system bang on your thyroid, on your whole body. So those things take time. So that's the easiest way I can explain that. So we need to go in and start taming our immune system. How do we do that? One of the cells, called a T helper cell. There's a couple different kinds of T helper cells. There's T helper 1 and T helper 2. When T helper 1 and T helper 2 stay in balance, we have a very balanced immune system. When autoimmune disease starts, our T helper 1 cells get out of whack with our T helper 2 cells. T helper 3 cell, this is our T regulatory cell. I'm trying not to get too detailed here. This is like the mama bear cell, all right? The mama bear cell in a normal immune system says, hey, you cut that out. You come back down here and you get back in line. So the T regulatory cell does this, right? It keeps your immune system in check. Here's the thing. This T regulatory cell is dependent on vitamin D. Most of you that I've seen or seen any of your labs or heard a lot of your symptoms are pretty deficient in vitamin D. So we know that your T regulatory cell can't balance your immune system without vitamin D, without zinc, without selenium, without vitamin A, all right, and without appropriate amounts of B complex vitamins and iron. Because you have to have oxygen, and your red blood cells bring oxygen everywhere, dependent on iron. The entire ability of your immune system to be tamed is nutrient dependent. This is why, and I said in my opening, or in my paragraph, this is why your doctors don't get it. They've never had a class in nutrition, and we talked about that in my last video about the fact that you know more than your doctor. You're not crazy because you know this now, but your doctor's never had a class in nutrition, so he doesn't know this. He doesn't understand how important these nutrients are in order for you to actually control your immune system. He has a script and a scalpel, and his script may be a very big, powerful drug to tame your immune system, but instead of just taming it, it whips it. So that if you end up on Remicade or Humira or any of the other biologics like that, you really shouldn't be in the room with somebody like me right now who is carrying some virus, bacteria, or a fungus, because you no longer have an immune system that can handle that. So the big biologics aren't a great answer for Hashimoto's. They have become an answer to rheumatoid or lupus or some of these other autoimmune disorders because of the pain level that patients end up in, because they don't have an immune system that's regulating itself. And the joint destruction or tissue destruction continues, just like in Hashimoto's, it's your thyroid. With rheumatoid, it tends to be joints. With lupus, it tends to be soft tissue. So if you have a crazy immune system attacking a part of your body, it's painful. And without this knowledge, the only thing that they really have is their script or a scalpel. So this is how we're going to start to tame your immune system. Let's talk about taming your immune system by healing your gut. Because we all know, oh, I just love live videos, don't you? We all know that, let's get this straightened out. We all know that our gut is the root cause of all of this. When we have leaky gut, we can't get in the nutrients that we really need to heal our body. And so if we can't get the nutrients in, how are we going to get that T regulatory cells? How are we going to get our T regulatory cells back in order? We're not going to be able to. So let's heal our gut first. The first things that your gut needs to heal is obviously a gluten-free and dairy-free diet for a little while. Dairy for a while, depending on how your system actually will handle it. Dairy-free, gluten-free for 6 months. And I'm just putting 6 months out there because you may feel fantastic, but you're not going to be healed. Isabella Wentz says autoimmune paleo for 2 years. So just understand that just because you're starting to feel good isn't time to go out for pizza. Feeling good and healthy are not the same thing. So we all know of a dude that had a heart attack, just out of the blue, and we thought they were healthy. He felt fine, or she felt fine, and then boom, they just had this crazy heart attack or some other stroke or something else happened, but they felt fine. Feeling fine is not really a measure of health. What's a measure of health is how well does your body handle the stressors that are put on it. So that's why Isabella Wentz says that it's going to take up to 2 years possibly to really heal before you can start reintroducing some things. In my practice, I see 3 to 6 months as an appropriate time frame to really start healing and to be able to loosen up here and there. And some patients, by that time, when you start to really feel good, you don't really ever want to go back. So just know that even though it's hard in the beginning, we've all been there. So let's start healing our leaky gut. We're going to start healing our leaky gut by going gluten-free and dairy-free, and you can see my other videos for that. There's in the file section or the info section on your phone, there are plenty of resources. I've put in there the Renew diet and the Eat for Energy diet. The Renew diet has lots of recipes and like a very structured Monday through Friday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all of that stuff put together for you, and shopping lists and everything that certain people really like to have. The Eat for Energy is just simple, basic, here's what we need to do. So that takes care of the eat. Drink half your weight in ounces. Try to cut out as much coffee as you possibly can, caffeine. Bring it down slowly or you'll have a massive, massive headache. So eat, drink, move. Try to move your body 30 minutes a day, some kind of movement. Don't just sit still. That doesn't help anything, and it doesn't help your body heal. Find slow movements to do, even if it's a Tai Chi or a yoga, something that's very healing for you. We're going to get back to food in just a minute. So eat, drink, move, sleep 6 to 8 hours. If you're having trouble sleeping, private message me and let's kind of walk through it if you know, so we can figure out how to get you sleeping. And then the thoughts in your head. What are you telling yourself? Here's what we know about the immune system. One negative interaction with another human being can dampen your immune system for up to 24 hours. So, what about all the negative thoughts that you may be telling yourself about yourself? All the time that you spend beating yourself up is not helping your immune system at all. So let's start trying to love ourselves and be gentle with ourselves and be forgiving of ourselves instead of trying to be some perfect, crazy expectations when we're not actually up to our best anyway, right? If I was into perfection, I wouldn't be standing here on a live video watching the board fall on my head, right? So that just doesn't need to be part of our life at some point, and what we need to do is really look at what's important in our life. So let's get back to food. What else will heal our leaky gut besides a really good clean diet, as clean as you can make it? I like to use a lot of glutamine. I use and I have my gut healing protocol is also in the file or info section. So I use a product called Inflammacor that has 2.5 grams of glutamine. I also add another 4 grams, 3 to 4 grams in a product called GlutaShield. L-glutamine helps to heal those gap junctions so that they can become tight again. It helps to feed the colon and the colon cells. The reason I use some of the products that I use, they have synergistic properties. So in it also contains high doses of turmeric and arabinogalactans. Both help to that T regulatory cell that we talked about, the mama bear cell. They help that cell do its job. So those are things that are anti-inflammatory, right? That's how that works. They help that T regulatory cell dampen or even out that T helper 1 and T helper 2 side of your immune system so that it can become balanced. We don't want to suppress and we don't want to raise our immune system. We want to balance our immune system. That's what I'm saying about taming your immune system. So those products help to not only heal your gut, but take care of your immune system. This is the beauty of functional medicine, right? It's not one supplement for one treatment, for one thing, for this thing or that thing. It's a group of supplements that heal the whole body from the inside out. So when we start to heal the gut, we are also healing the immune system. So I use those. I use a big probiotic, like 225 billion for about 2 weeks. Now, some of you Hashimoto's patients cannot do that. We have to start low and slow on every single supplement and introduce every single supplement very low and slow for some of you. Some of you have no problem. You're just all gung-ho and you can take everything right from the get-go. But that's not how it always works. So I'm going to tell you to start low and slow. Start with a half a scoop. Start with just a little bit of these things so that you can understand what's going to happen to your system while you start taking them. The other thing that I also use is a digestive enzyme. Let's talk about digestion, because what ends up happening in most of us, if we've ever had any problems with reflux or like just feeling full all the time or bloated all the time, a lot of times what happens when we're around 30, 35, all those stressors that I mentioned before start to really eat at our ability to make digestive enzymes and digestive juices that includes hydrochloric acid, our stomach acid. And so what ends up happening is our food sits in our stomach too long and we end up with reflux. It's not about having too much acid, it's about having not enough acid. And so then our food doesn't digest well and the acid just sits there and feels horrible. So when we introduce a digestive enzyme with hydrochloric acid in it, it helps to start breaking down our food. It also allows your B12, which most of you are deficient in, it allows that B12 to become activated in your stomach. So it's important to get to good digestive enzymes with HCl from the start. If you've had ulcers, then again, PM me and we'll talk about it, because sometimes you have to go super low and slow on that one too. So we have a couple of gut healing powders that we make into a shake, along with a probiotic and some digestive enzymes. And that's where I usually start patients. Yes, do you need vitamin D? If you already know that you're deficient, you probably should be taking 5,000 to 10,000 IU per day. Other than that, I don't start patients out with a whole bunch of other supplements. Why? Because you have this gut that's leaky, that's not going to be able to absorb and do everything that you need it to do anyway. So take a chill and let your body heal. How long did I say, right? 6 months to 2 years, according to Isabella Wentz. So we know that it's just going to take a lot of time to do that. Some other supplements that can be beneficial though and can give you a little bit of extra boost is a good B complex vitamin, probably methylated, because a lot of our Hashimoto's patients and our autoimmune patients have some issues with some of their biochemistry, that they don't process B complex vitamins very well. And we can talk about that in another day. So B complex vitamins would be something else. Iron, obviously something that's really important. Iron can be constipating, so make sure that you find one that is, I use one that it's called reacted iron, and it has an amino acid attached to the iron molecule, which allows for better bioavailability or absorption into your system, and it doesn't create so much constipation. Some vegetarian sources are also helpful. Let's see, how else can we tame our immune system? How about watching out for the stressors in our life? If you haven't taken time to really look at how you spend your day and make sure that you get 5 to 10 to 15 minutes of quiet downtime that you can take and learn how to do deep breathing, or like I said earlier, some movement like yoga, and de-stress your mind and body, you won't be able to heal as quickly or as efficiently. Your body thinks it's being chased by a Bengal tiger all day long. How well do you think that your body being chased all day is going to be able to heal or digest or rest, right? It's not. And your immune system turns off when it thinks it's being chased like that. So coming down a level and saying no and not looking for that perfection all the time is also part of healing. It's been a big journey in my world too, in that same thing. I'm on this journey with you all, every single one of you. We all have a little bit different thing, but it's interesting that we all have some very similar themes. So I hope that I've answered the taming of the immune system questions. I did have some notes, so I'm gonna quickly peruse them to make sure that I covered everything that I wanted to cover. I think I did. Leaky gut? Yep, I did. So I'm sure that I'll get lots of questions, and I'm fine with those questions, and I will be on Facebook probably not much until Friday, but I will try and get there and answer your questions as soon as possible. And I do have a site for donation. It's on my Square store. If you would be so inclined, I would appreciate that. For any time that you feel or any value that you feel I've given to you, I would appreciate that. And good night all. This has been a blast, and I do have my phone turned around so I can't see your comments flying through. I hope you all have enjoyed it. I certainly have. Have a good evening. Good night.